to financing. Less than 1% of all recovery assistance coming to Ukraine is prioritizing gender equality and women's empowerment. Yet, what we see in cities like Zaporizhia, which has an acting mayor who is a woman, we see that women are organizing and that they greatly need additional support to be able to continue the work that they are doing. Now is the time to stand up with women and girls in Ukraine with greater commitment than ever. Together, we can ensure they endure this war with resilience and emerge as empowered leaders that can shape Ukraine's gender-responsive recovery, just and equal future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabine. That's really appreciated. I'll give the floor now to Birgit. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And thank you for the former speaker also to talking about the situation in Ukraine. I'll continue. And today the world is marking the World Mental Health Day. And the theme for that is mental health in humanitarian emergencies, just what we have just heard about. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, the IFRC, together with our national societies across Europe, is right now launching a new data that reveal a critical gap in how we prepare for and respond to crises regarding mental health. We have new data in that report, which we call the missing pillar in Europe's emergency preparedness. It draws on no less than 150,000 voices from across the region, including Ukraine and 5 countries within the EU, including Lithuania, Portugal, France, Ireland, and Romania. Mental health and psychosocial support are as essential as food or shelter, but it remains underfunded and poorly integrated into Europe's crisis and disaster preparedness systems. This is important. And this is particularly stark in Ukraine, where the conflict has inflicted deep psychological wounds and where our research reveals that the scale of the mental health crisis. So here are some numbers on that. 56% of the people say that they need psychological support, yet only 19 have been able to access that. 4 in 5 say that they or their loved ones have experienced traumatic events since the escalation of the conflict. The pressure is especially heavy on more vulnerable groups. Displaced people, older adults, children, survivors of violence, and persons with disabilities that are all experiencing psychological strain. People told us that safe spaces and childcare were critical to recovery, lifelines that restore daily routine and can reduce stress. These are the daily realities, and if you think about this night's latest developments in Kiev and many other cities in Ukraine, they are the daily realities for families facing uncertainty, but also for volunteers that are offering help and for communities that are still stuck between responding to ongoing bombardments and trying to recover to some kind of normalcy. Across Europe, our findings also show that we are not mentally prepared for the next crisis. Only 1 in 7 people feel mentally ready to face a sudden crisis, such as conflict or disaster. In most countries surveyed, more than 1 in 5, or more accurately, 23%, people said that they worry about crisis daily or weekly, a level of ongoing stress that affects the well-being in itself. On the good news side is that people really want to help. 4 in 5 respondents said that they would be willing to offer emotional support to someone struggling, but nearly half fear that they will be the ones to make things work worse for the ones they help. 6 in 10 said that with some basic training, they would feel much more capable of helping others. So those are the good news. And what we've seen what happens when we invest in critical mental health gap. Across Europe and Central Asia last year, the IFRC network delivered 2.4 million mental health and psychosocial support services. This is part of a 9.4 million receiving support around these services globally. In Ukraine and in neighboring countries, we launched the largest ever mental health initiative where our team supported millions affected by the conflict, including through helplines, counseling, group sessions, and training in psychosocial first aid. Sorry, that is psychological first aid. We've also trained tens of thousands of first responders, including our volunteers, teachers, health workers, and civil protection staff, to provide psychological first aid and basic psychosocial support. These skills strengthen both immediate response and long-term community resilience. When people receive early, practical mental health support, it reduces distress. It prevents escalation and helps families recover faster. It also eases pressures on the health systems. So our report offers a clear call. Mental health should not be a missing pillar across Europe. Indeed, it is a critical component to crisis preparedness and response, and it's a gap that we urgently need to close. And as the conflict in Ukraine continues, it shows what is at stake. Behind every destroyed building, there is also this invisible ruin that toll on people's minds and hearts. And rebuilding must start there too. Invest early, act locally, and recognize that every conversation, every act of care helps societies withstand the shocks ahead. Thank you very much, and happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Birgit. And I'm just looking to the list of speakers. I wonder if Christian, maybe Dr. Fahmi Anna would like to intervene now, if isn't connected.
Yes, he's there.
Okay, maybe we can hear from Dr. Hannah, as we have been speaking a lot about mental health, humanitarian response, and then I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Would you like me to do an intervention related to Ukraine now,
related
to the World Mental Health Day?
I know you had some remarks to make, so if you can do it, and then we will open the floor to questions on Ukraine and mental health or mental health. So just please go ahead.
So your complete brief, Fahmi, please.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Colleagues, today's theme on World Mental Health Day is simple and urgent, as kindly shared by my colleagues from UN Women and I4C, access to mental health and psychosocial support in humanitarian emergencies. It's true, the world is facing not only unprecedented humanitarian crisis, but also humanitarian assistance in all emergencies today. That 67 million people with mental disorders living in conflict, disaster, or displacement settings. Their needs are not marginal, they are among the most affected with every emergency. We know that coordination and progress is real and possible. In 2019, 6 years ago, fewer than half of all emergencies has an MHPSS coordination mechanism. Today, it's 71%. That proves that investment can make a difference in people care and better referral. 85% of emergencies report to WHO Mental Health Atlas that they are integrating mental health and psychosocial support. However, quality and service coverage fall short. WHO is supporting mental health in 40+ emergencies today, backed by a global interagency search roster of 600 specialists that we have the pleasure and privilege to co-chair together with our colleagues in I4C. And the IASC, Mental Health and Psychosocial Support Minimum Service Package, represent our gold standard for rapid coordinated action in any emergency response. Colleagues, in 2024, WHO provided life-saving psychotropic medicines to 2.1 million people in emergencies such as in Sudan, Chad, and Ethiopia, and helped in building mental health system in places such as Myanmar, Syria, and Lebanon. However, in 2025, This request for life-saving psychotropic medication has fallen short by 94%. Not because we have less people with mental health conditions in emergencies, but because there are competing priorities among emergencies and funding become more constrained and in some situations vanished. In 2024, member states of WHO adopted a milestone resolution at the World Health Assembly, the first in history to call for mental health integration in preparedness, response, and recovery of emergencies. Colleagues, the most powerful aid can be a safe place to tell a story. The most common condition in emergency is not a physical wound, but grief. A broken bone may heal in weeks, a destroyed home can be built in months, but mental health effects, if ignored, can last a lifetime or even generations. People cannot survive, as my colleague in IFRC said, on food, water, and shelter and all. With mental health and psychosocial support, people can cope, recover, and heal. Access turn numbers into neighbor, a parent who sleep again, a child back in class, a responder who can keep serving, measuring success by those who find care. Colleagues, for all humanitarian responders, we need to integrate mental health into operations. To all governments, we need to invest in mental health preparedness, it pay back in well-being and economic recovery. And finally, to funders, mental health and psychosocial support is a life-saving measure. WHO World Mental Health Day page today include feature stories, resources, social media asset, videos, and most importantly, stories from the front lines in Afghanistan, Syria, Myanmar, among others, showcasing work of scaling up and building back better, sustainable mental health care during and after emergencies. Colleagues, let's ensure together that we renew our commitment today for the value of mental health. I wish all of you health, safety, and mental well-being on the World Mental Health Day.
Thank you very much. And on the same note, I would like to also recall that we've just distributed the message of the Secretary General for World Mental Health Day. You have it in your mailboxes. So I'll open the floor to questions, but I would like please to ask you if you can prioritize the question on Ukraine, and then also we will take mental health just after. So I'm looking, Robin, Agence France Presse, please.
Good morning. This is a question for Sabine Fraser. The rise in civilian harm this year that you spoke about, does that have a particular impact on women? And secondly, what is that rise in civilian harm down to? Is it just the volume of missiles and drones, or is it the actual targeting of civilians? Thank you.
Sabine?
Thank you very much for that question. What we have seen is, yes, the increase of civilian harm in terms of casualties, but what we've also seen is the increasing targeting of energy infrastructure and other forms of infrastructure. What happens when that occurs is that women are also disproportionately affected by that. We carried out a study earlier this year about the destruction of energy infrastructure and how that affects women in particular. And of course, then women have different, it affects women differently than it does men, because of course women are spending a lot more time at home. So they are of course responsible for the food in the house, for example, the electricity in the house. And so when you have attacks, as you did this morning here in Kiev, where the household no longer has electricity and water, this has a huge effect on women who are leading their families while a large number of men are fighting on the front lines. I would also say that the attacks on infrastructure in terms of transport has a huge effect on women. So also parts of the metro are not working today. Women tend to use public transport more than men. The effect on the trains, which we're also now seeing in the country. So yes, the attacks on the infrastructure are having a predominant effect on women in Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Sabine. Other questions, particularly on Ukraine, from the room or on mental health? I don't see any. Let me go to the platform. I don't see any either. So if that's the case, thank you very much to all our speakers. And again, please have a look at this statement of the Secretary General. And I'd like now to ask UNHCR colleagues to come to the podium. Thank you very much, Birgit. So Let me welcome Eugene, who has brought with us, yes, please, with her Abdurraouf Gnonkonde, I hope I pronounce it well, who is the UNHCR Regional Director for West and Central Asia. Sorry, Africa, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. UNHCR, so I'll start again. Eugene brought us Abdurraouf Gnonkonde, the UNHCR Regional Director for West and Central Africa. And you're here to tell us about the international support needed to advance protection and solution for the forcibly displaced in the Sahel. You have the floor, sir. Thank you. Yes, please.
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me this morning. About 4 million people are now displaced across Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and neighboring countries, around 2/3 more than 5 years ago, reflecting insecurity, limited access to services, a livelihood, and the effect of climate change. While most displaced people in the region remain within the countries, cross-border movements are becoming more frequent, pressuring host communities and national systems. These onward movements highlight the urgent need to expand assistance and enable people to remain closer to home and avoid dangerous journeys. The insecurity across the region is exposing people to violence, forced recruitment, movement restriction, and arbitrary detention. Women and children represent 80% of the forcibly displaced population in the region, and gender-based violence remains a critical and pervasive concern. According to the West and Central Africa Interagency Protection Monitoring System, the number of people impacted by related incidents has significantly increased this year. Over 14,000 agents, and gender-based violence remains a critical and pervasive concern. According to the West and Central Africa Interagency Protection Monitoring System, the number of people impacted by related incidents has significantly increased this year. Over 14,800 schools had closed in the region by mid-2025, leaving 3 million children without access to learning or safe space. Forcibly displaced youth face increased protection and livelihood challenges, including forced recruitment, trafficking, and limited access to job opportunities, increasing the risk of taking dangerous journeys beyond the region. Across the region, over 900 health facilities have been also forced to close, leaving millions without critical care. Food insecurity has become a growing driver of displacement. The share of displaced people and host community members citing food insecurity as a cause of their movement has doubled in recent years. Climate-related shocks further amplify risk, intensifying competition over scarce natural resources, such as land and water, creating additional barriers to peaceful coexistence and social cohesion with host communities. UNHCR priority is to strengthen protection, inclusion, resilience, and solutions, supporting states, but also communities to manage displacement while fostering stability and self-reliance. However, humanitarian access and funding are both strained. In the Sahel, humanitarian needs have risen sharply while resources have declined significantly since 2022. In 2025, UNHCR requires $409.7 million to cover humanitarian need in the Sahel countries. But so far, as of today, only 32% have been raised. Critical activities, including registration, documentation, education, health, and shelter, have been drastically impacted. Over 212,000 refugees and asylum seekers in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger are not yet registered, limiting their access to essential services and heightening their risk of arbitrary detention and harassment. Despite these challenges, communities across the Sahel demonstrate resilience and solidarity. UNHCR data shows that in Mali, 90% of the displaced people feel a strong sense of integration, with local communities generously sharing land and resources. In Burkina Faso, local conflict resolution mechanisms support coexistence between displaced and host population. All Sahel countries are parties to 1951 Refugee Convention and its 1967 protocol and have adopted national asylum laws that provide a framework, a legal framework for refugee status determination and inclusion, including the right to work and freedom of movement. All have also ratified the Kampala Convention on Internal Displacement. UNHCR is calling for a renewed and strengthened international commitment to address the crisis in the Central Sahel. Countries in the region cannot face these challenges alone. Protecting millions of displaced families and securing a safer future demands more than words. It requires unified, sustained international action and true solidarity with the Sahel people. I thank you.
I thank you very much, Abdul Rauf, and I would like now to open the floor to questions. This is really an important situation, and we don't put enough light on, so it's an important occasion. Let me see if there's any question. Robin, Agence France-Presse.
Good morning. Those 4 million people that are now displaced across the Sahel region, why is it that people are mostly staying within their own national borders? Are there any patterns that you've picked up as to why people are not leaving the country entirely but staying within the country?
Okay. No, you're absolutely right, because, I mean, if you take the 4 million individuals, it is true that 75% represent those who are internally displaced, and we only have, refugees. And people don't want to leave because there is a lot of strength in terms of freedom of movement. That's one point. Getting access to borders within that region is becoming so complex, which is a new trend because we haven't seen this in the past, 5 or 10 years. So countries are also, the states in the countries, the neighboring states are also afraid because of, the terrorism activities. So they are afraid. How do you respond to the need of, those who are willing or trying to leave their countries of origin because of the violence, the level of violence, terrorism activities? But how do you deal with it at the same time protecting yourself and making sure that your country is also safe? So it's not easy. But those are the kind of activities that UNHCR is working with the neighboring countries. And there is one process which is called Lomé Dialogue, where with the Togo government, we have been able to bring countries like Côte d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin, Ghana together, including Burkina Faso, to discuss precisely those kind of issues. How do you link and connect security, but at the same time, opening your borders to welcome, receive, and then address the needs of those civilian population who are fleeing the Sahel countries?
Thank you very much. Other questions to UNHCR? Let me see on the platform. I don't see other hands up. But before letting you go, I think Eugene has also something to add.
Yes, as you all know that we're closing our executive committee of this year today, and then High Commissioners will give closing remarks, and then as you all know that this is the last year of Filippo Grandi's ExCom, and then the closing remarks will be webcasted, as well as you're welcome to the General Assembly Hall. We'll be there to assist you. Thank you.
Any questions to the UNHCR colleagues? No? Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks for coming, Abdul Rauf. Good luck for the end of the meeting. And I'll ask Ricardo to come to the podium. We'll go to Gaza now. Sorry? OHCHR is connected. So if you have a question, Tamim is connected. Yeah, absolutely. And so is Christian. And then we will also, in fact, we also have, as we have put you in the agenda, Juliette Touma, who is connected. She's there to answer questions, if any. So I'll start with Ricardo. Welcome, Ricardo. Just go ahead.
Thanks, Alessandra. Good morning. Let me begin by sharing the reaction to yesterday's news of this agreement to secure a ceasefire and the end of war in the Gaza Strip from 2 children who UNICEF spoke to in Deir el-Balah, southern Gaza. Their words are far more powerful than anything I can say today. My Sarah is 13 years old. He said, "I felt happy the moment I heard the news about the ceasefire. Finally, I will return to my city in the north because, like all children, we are tired of war. We want to live our childhood again. What makes me even happier is that I will no longer suffer from hunger. I will hug the soil in my city because I missed it too much. Returning to my city means going back to school and to our normal life." Rasha is also 13. She said, "I miss my cousins, and we want to go visit them in the cemetery in East Bureji camp. And we want to see our families in Gaza. Since the ceasefire was announced, we have all been happy." These are just 2 of the more than 1 million children who have been waiting for this day for more than 2 years. 2 years of unimaginable suffering. The news of an imminent ceasefire brings a much-needed, long overdue glimmer of hope for them and their families. This hope must be met with immediate, urgent action. It is critical that all parties to the conflict do absolutely everything they can to ensure the deal is implemented, sustained, and leads to lasting peace. In the hours until the ceasefire is officially announced and takes hold, children must be protected. The ceasefire will bring hope that the killing and maiming of children might finally stop. Over 64,000 children have either died or been injured due to attacks by Israel's military. Around 25% of them have potentially life-changing injuries. UNICEF is ready. The aid must flow. Israel must open as many entry points as possible. The situation is critical. We risk seeing a massive spike in child deaths, not only neonatal, but also infants, given their immune systems are more compromised than ever before, nor have they had access to proper food for what is now years. To add to this, cold winter without adequate shelter and clothing will be lethal. We saw neonates die last year from hypothermia. But UNICEF knew this situation was coming. It takes months to get these supplies from around the world and into Gaza. We factored this and started ordering tarpaulins and winter clothes in July. So we aim to give 2 winter clothing kits to every baby under 12 months and bring in 1 million blankets for every single child in Gaza. The list goes on. We have assisted devices for the many thousands of wounded children in the pipeline, since we have been blocked for so long in getting children's items like wheelchairs and crutches into Gaza. We're ready to support the restoration of water supply systems along with the drainage and sanitation systems, including solid waste management to serve all children and families in the Gaza Strip. And of course, nutrition. As an ultimate priority, the deal should be used to avert malnutrition and the extension of famine across the Gaza Strip. UNICEF has the capacity to swiftly improve the nutrition status of 50,000 children below the age of 5, who are at high risk, and 60,000 pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. We have been doing it in the past months, but we need to be able to flood Gaza with nutrition supplies and treatment. A genuine ceasefire must be more than words. It must be sustained and respected, placing children's rights at the very center. This means opening all crossings for humanitarian aid and ensuring that every child, from north to south, is reached with the essentials for survival. Humanitarian relief is only the beginning. Children in Gaza also need schools reopened, play spaces restored, and time to heal from unimaginable trauma. This ceasefire must create conditions for both emergency and long-term aid. Recovery, so children like my Sarah can reclaim their childhoods. It will be a long road. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. And I'd like to also call your attention on the media stakeout that the Secretary General gave yesterday after the announcement of the agreement, as well as the press conference by Tom Fletcher yesterday, sorry, to your colleagues in New York, where he's been very going into very many details on what the UN needs and what the UN can do. So please have a look at those documents too. And as I said, Juliette and Tamim are also on the line to answer your questions. So I'll open the floor to questions to the room now first. Olivia, Reuters.
Thank you very much, Ricardo and Juliette. A fair few questions, if I may. Ricardo, can I just get some clarity? You're saying risk of seeing young children dying as we go into the ceasefire, which is soon to be finalised. Can you just maybe give some more detail on why that would be? And perhaps you could also just explain some of the logistical challenges you face now getting the aid into Gaza in terms of unexploded ordnance, things like that, on the ground. And also just a question in terms of roles. This is both for you and Juliette. You were mentioning the need for all crossings to be open for full aid to flow through, but do either of you have any clarity on whether every UN agency will be involved in that effort? And specifically, question for Juliette, what is UNRWA's role? Can you please spell that out clearly to us under this ceasefire agreement? And also just an additional question, if I may. We understand there's been some reports of GHF dismantling a couple of its feeding points in Gaza. Just wondering if you had any further detail on that from what you've heard. I'll start with those. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. I'll start with Ricardo, then go to Juliette.
Excuse me. Let me start with the last questions. I don't have any information about the GHF. I think we'll see a lot of change across the Gaza Strip with this new ceasefire plan and how the UN's role will hopefully increase and go back to what it always was with the efficiency and sustainability that we've always kept across the Strip for many decades. In terms of the logistics, it's still early days. We don't have enough details yet as to how UNICEF will be part of this new response on the ground with the ceasefire, but we've seen earlier this year when we had a ceasefire what we can do just in a couple of months of peace and when the guns go silent. All the numbers that we're concerned about now in terms of child malnutrition, children with preventable diseases going to the hospitals with very low immunity, the issues of protection, all these issues improve very quickly. And the Palestinians have a very quick way to pick up and use that resilience to start rebuilding their lives. So we will see changes coming very quickly, but I'm afraid I don't have a lot of details in terms of the logistics, but with the corridors open, as many as we can, even the ones that have been closed for way too long, that is an essential step, and that is what we will continue to call for those crossings to be open as soon as possible so we can flood Gaza with aid that has been way below the needed scale for too many months. And finally, on the children at risk, as I said, their immunity systems are so low now because they haven't been eating properly and recently at all for way too long. We're talking about many, many months, if not nearly 2 years of not enough nutrition supplies getting through, commercial goods not being consistently allowed through the Kerem Shalom crossing or other crossings. So children are not getting enough nutrients because it's not only about calories with children. They need to have the right vitamins and the nutrients to develop and be able to cope with temperature changes or just virus outbreaks, preventable diseases, etc. And in Gaza, they've been very vulnerable for over 2 years now. So specifically on malnutrition, the 50,000 children at risk have acute malnutrition, so they need to be treated immediately. So with the ceasefire, we hope we can get the therapeutic treatment that they so desperately need as soon as possible. Just yesterday, as an example, UNICEF had a successful mission to the north, to Gaza City, to rescue 2 babies who were in incubators and fighting for their lives. But luckily, with the hard work of colleagues and health workers on the ground, they survived and they got reunited with their families today after 15 hours yesterday trying to get the mission through because, you know, the situation on the ground was still very, very unstable, and kinetic activity was taking place, a lot of violence. So I hope this is just an example of what will come after the ceasefire is fully implemented. More children being treated, more children protected, less death, less horror for them, and that's what we're hoping. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I really would like to welcome Juliette Touma for UNRWA. Juliette, you have the floor if you would like to answer Reuters.
Absolutely. Thanks. Hi, Alessandra. Hi, everyone. Olivia, thank you for the questions. From our side, there is little information available on the details or how the agreement will be implemented. However, we call for all crossings into Gaza to be open immediately so that humanitarian supplies can flow into the war-torn enclave. At UNICEF, at UNRWA, we have supplies that can fill 6,000 trucks of aid. They are in Jordan and they are in Egypt. Since the last time I spoke to you, we've not had any progress to move those supplies into Gaza. As a reminder, we have food that can be provided to the entire population, sufficient for 3 months, and this is absolutely critical in controlling the spread of famine, which has been confirmed in Gaza City. So this food from UNRWA is critical for averting and controlling famine. On the role of UNRWA, we do not have any details. We have been banned by the Israeli authorities from bringing in any supplies into Gaza since March 2025, so that's more than 7 months. The same supplies that I mentioned to you, that also have medicines, by the way, for the UNRWA clinics that continue to be open in Gaza, and also for our mobile health points that are spread across the Gaza Strip. So if we need those supplies to get in, also because they have medicine. They also have other basics like 1 million bar of soap, as an example. We have hygiene supplies, including sanitary pads for women and girls. And we all know that this has been in very, very short supply. We also call for allowing our international personnel back into the occupied Palestinian territory. That also includes the Gaza Strip, also includes the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem. We have not had any visa from the government of Israel to any international personnel at UNRWA since January this year. With regards to the GHF, we do not have any information, like Ricardo said. However, what we keep saying is that there is a system in place. It is managed by the United Nations, including UNRWA. UNRWA continues to be the largest humanitarian organization in Gaza, against all odds, despite all these challenges, despite the ban. The agency continues to have, as we speak, 12,000 humanitarian workers who are providing to the Palestinian community in the Gaza Strip, across the Gaza Strip, including in the north of the Gaza Strip. All we're saying is let the UN, including UNRWA, to do its work. It is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to imagine undertaking a humanitarian response at the level needed in Gaza without UNRWA.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Mohammed. Christian Ulrich, DPA.
No, I don't. Juliet, have you had any indication with this agreement in the last few days that the status of UNRWA is going to be rethought by the Israelis, or that you will be able to play a role? I mean, if they do not change the policy, you would still not be allowed to move in or get visas. Have you had any indication that there's a change in the pipeline? Thank you.
Juliet?
Thanks. Great to see you. Not just yet, but as any humanitarian would tell you, we thrive and survive on hope. And so we hope that pragmatism will prevail. I tell you also why, also because of the role that UNRWA can play in bringing children back to education. You see, in Gaza, there are 660,000 boys and girls who have not been to school for the third year in a row. And now, before the war, half of them used to go to UNRWA schools. We have, as an example, 7,000 teachers among our cohort of staff who are ready to help children return to education. And so that is going to be absolutely fundamental, not only because children must go back to school to overcome the trauma and the shock and to reconnect with whatever is left of their childhood, but also to get the education, the learning skills, the life skills that they are going to need, that Gaza is going to need when peace eventually comes back to the war-torn enclave. These children are going to be key for rebuilding the future of Gaza.
Mohammed, Anadolu wants.
Okay, thank you so much, Juliet. My question is will be about humanitarian aid as well. As you mentioned, humanitarian aid are waiting to get in Gaza, and the ceasefire agreement started today. And you also mentioned that Israel has banned you. That's why you don't have contact with them. So far, do you know that did any UN officials have contact to Israeli authorities to rapid delivery of this aid?
Juliet?
Yeah, thank you. The short answer is no, I don't know. And as far as we know, with regards to your first part of the question on the ceasefire, the airstrikes have continued based on an interaction I had with colleagues in Gaza this morning. And also as a reminder, since the war began, we can very sadly confirm that over 370 of my colleagues at UNRWA have been killed, some of them in the line of duty. This is also to confirm that this is the highest death toll in the United Nations since it was first established.
Thank you very much. Iman Kuna.
Thank you so much. Two questions, please. The first one is for UNICEF. I understood that yesterday you succeeded to bring two child from the north of Gaza. Do you have any information if there is still infant in the incubator in the north and in Gaza City? This is the first question, and I have another one for UNRWA. Okay, and so UNRWA is not part of this aid plan yet, but is UNRWA doing something to the negotiation with the Israeli part or the Americans or other country to be part in this plan? Thank you so much.
Ricardo?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we do have babies still in Gaza City in incubators waiting to be evacuated and moved back to the south. We had 18 babies at the beginning of the week, with the 2 that got moved yesterday, thankfully. We now have an estimated 16 babies still in incubators waiting to be moved. These 2 babies that we managed to move yesterday, they would They were discharged, so they didn't need any more medical care. They could go back to their parents, and they got separated in mid-September. So this is a very happy story because all the parents are alive as well. But the other 16 are still either under treatment, or we don't have the green light or the security clearance in place to move them. And we hope we will do very soon.
Juliette.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just to clarify, I have not said that UNRWA is not part of the plan. That's not what I said. We are a part of the United Nations. UNRWA is the largest humanitarian agency. Like other UN agencies, we do not have yet the details. But what I said is that we hope that our trucks of supplies are allowed to enter Gaza together with the rest of the United Nations family, and that our international personnel are finally allowed back into the occupied Palestinian territory, including the Gaza Strip.
Are there questions in the room? I don't see, so let me go to the platform. Imogen, BBC.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. I'm still a bit unclear. I read Tom Fletcher's statement. I guess this is for all of the UN agencies present, and unfortunately OCHA doesn't seem to me, but is what you're saying just wishful thinking, or are there genuine discussions going on with the people who are hammering out this peace deal, ceasefire, about humanitarian aid? Or are you just saying, hello, we're here, we can do it?
Alessandra, I can take this if you like.
Please.
Yeah, Imogen, thanks. Great to hear you as always. Look, I don't really from UNRWA. Let's say we have not been contacted. That is the fact, and we know that. Now, again, it's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to implement a humanitarian operation, a humanitarian response at the scale needed in the Gaza Strip without UNRWA. Why? Because we are the largest humanitarian organization, because we have 12,000 people who are currently inside the Gaza Strip. No other UN agency has this number of staff on the ground, because we have the infrastructure across the Gaza Strip to implement such an operation, because we have the trust of the community, which is something that is often underreported, but UNRWA and our staff, we have that in the Gaza Strip. So we call for pragmatism to prevail, and for UNRWA to be allowed to bring those supplies in, which we can, by the way, directly give to people in need. We have no middleman, we have no organization between the agency and the communities that we serve.
Thank you very much. Imogen, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do. UNICEF, also you, Alessandra, I mean, can you give us any information? Have there been any genuine discussions about the role of the UN again, or is it just we are here and we can do it, but it hasn't been discussed?
I can speak for UNICEF.
Yeah, and I can then complement. Go ahead.
Yeah, similarly to what Juliette just said, we, as I understand, we haven't been officially contacted or asked to join any discussions as to when and how the UN will be part of this plan. But as Tom Fletcher said yesterday, obviously this is something that will happen. It probably has already started, but I don't have any details as to how UNICEF is participating in those discussions.
Imogen, oh yeah, Juliette, sorry, you have raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that might help with this very critical question, Imogen. First of all, if we look back at the last time there was a ceasefire in Gaza, that's January to March, so we had a period of 6 weeks where the UN, including UNRWA, were in charge of delivering humanitarian assistance. And back then, we were able to bring in, on average, 600, 500 trucks every day of supplies, not only of food, hence the big difference between us and the GHF. And then on some days, we were able to bring in 800 trucks. So all we're saying is not just we're here, we have done it in the past on many, many occasions and on several days. In fact, this is the reason why famine was delayed, because thanks to the assistance coming from the UN and the rest of the humanitarian family, including from UNRWA, we were able to avert famine from happening back then. So that's one thing. And the second thing, it would be very good for us to know what the sides who are working on this agreement, on the deal, have in the pipeline. So I don't know if you had the chance to ask those sides who are working on the agreement to clarify the role of the United Nations, including UNRWA, in such a deal.
Thank you, Juliette. I think I don't have much to add to what you said, except that Tom Fletcher yesterday gave more details about the contacts that they have with the Israeli counterparts, so I referred you to that, Imogen, too, and also to what Stefan said, answering a question exactly on this matter yesterday. I see many more questions. John Zarokostas. Just 1 second, sorry. Let me go to John. He's been waiting. Sorry.
Can you hear me there?
Yeah,
can you
John,
hear me there, Alessandro?
Yeah, we can. Sorry, John, can I ask for your patience, just because Christian wanted to add something about the ceasefire from WHO. If you don't mind, I let him talk. Maybe your question will also concern him. Sorry. Christian, just go ahead. You just wanted to add something on WHO side.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alexandra, and thanks everyone and to the colleagues already spoke. WHO welcomes the announcement to secure a long-awaited ceasefire in Gaza and the release of the hostages. After 2 years of relentless conflict, Gaza's health system, shattered yet standing, continues to serve its people with extraordinary resilience, thanks to the courage of health care workers and the unwavering support of WHO and all the partners. Only 13 of the 36 hospitals and 62 of 179 primary care centers remain partially functioning. The task ahead is immense, but WHO is committed to helping rebuild Gaza's health system. We are scaling up the delivery of medical supplies to address urgent needs, as the burden on hospitals will not ease overnight. We are also expanding medical evacuations from Gaza. At the same time, we are supporting the rehabilitation of hospitals and increasing the deployment of emergency medical teams to expand healthcare capacity, restore specialist services, and make health facilities fully functional again. As we expand our response, we call for unimpeded access across Gaza and unhindered entry of medical supplies through all possible routes. Resumption of medical evacuation from Gaza to the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Flexible funding to sustain emergency response and drive the recovery. And last but not least, and above all, a lasting, permanent ceasefire and peace. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, thanks for your patience. I'll go to you now.
Can you hear me there, Alessandra?
We can.
Hello? Yes, good morning. My question is to Ricardo and also to Christian. I was wondering if, following up to what Imogen said earlier, if there is a planned meeting of the Interagency Standing Committee at the principals level by Tom Fletcher to coordinate with all the humanitarian and international agencies on the humanitarian relief. And Juliet, that's relevant, I think, to UNRWA as well. Thank you.
Indeed, yesterday, Mr. Fletcher made a declaration on the indispensability of UNRWA in delivering the operations across to get to Palestinian civilians. Ricardo, and then maybe if Juliette wants to add anything, or Christian.
Yeah, thanks. Look, from our side, we are on full gear to make sure that we flood Gaza with aid, that UNICEF can do what we do best and at the highest scale possible. And surely these discussions are happening at the highest level as well with other UN agencies. I just don't have any granular information of when or where these discussions are happening, because this is all very relatively recent. But indeed, they're happening, and we hope that solutions and actions will start rolling out very soon.
Juliette or Christian, if you want to add anything. No, I don't see your hands up. So let me go to Jamie. Oh, sorry, Juliette, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just thanks for the question. Just perhaps to repeat the call from our Commissioner General, Alessandra, I don't know if the statement that we issued yesterday was read or shared with our friends in Geneva. If not, I can put it in the chat box.
We issue it on the UN Geneva account. But please go ahead. Maybe you can repeat it.
No, just to answer the question, it's also a call from UNRWA through the Commissioner General on all member states to support the agency to do its work and to allow us to do our work, including in Gaza. So it's a call on all member states to support UNRWA to do its work in Gaza. Because like I said, UNRWA is fundamental in the implementation of any agreement to be able to respond to the huge humanitarian needs in Gaza. It is going to be very difficult to do this without UNRWA. And like I said, and I will say it again because it's an issue that is very close to my heart, it's about children and bringing children back to education, including through the staff of UNRWA teachers who are currently in Gaza, continue to be in Gaza, to help with other UN agencies and entities on the ground in Gaza to bring back to learning 660,000 children who have not gone to school for the third year in a row.
Thank you very much. Jamie Keaton, AP.
Thanks, Alessandra. I wanted to ask Juliette, thank you so much, Juliette, for coming to see us, and nice to see you again. Could you tell us, following up on the earlier questions from Imogen and John, we heard from Fletcher yesterday that there is contact between OCHA and COGAT. I wanted to know what specifically UNRWA's connection is with COGAT. How frequently are you talking to them? Is there radio silence, or are you actually coordinating with them, specifically UNRWA? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. There's no radio silence from our side, I can assure you. We continue to be in touch with the Israeli authorities at the different levels. We, however, do not get a response back. This has been the case since the Israeli parliament bill came into effect. That was at the end of January this year, where, according to the bill, there's a no contact policy between the Israeli authorities and UNRWA. However, we continued to write and correspond at different levels of the agency with different parts of the government of Israel.
Thank you very much, Juliette. Sorry, Olivia, Reuters.
Thank you again. I just would seek your comment, please, both of you, Ricardo and Juliette, about. I mean, we've heard from one Israeli security source suggesting that around 600 trucks a day could be getting into Gaza. Previously, Juliette, you were mentioning 800 trucks getting in under UNRWA's leadership. So I'm just curious to know what you both make of that figure, and roughly how much would you be expecting and needing to get in? If you could give us a sense of scale of the need, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me have a stab on this. So basically, what we've been saying across the UN, not just at UNRWA, is that Gaza needs 500 trucks every day. That's been our assessment since the beginning of the war, and that's based on the trucks that used to come into Gaza before the war began. Gaza was under a blockade, as you know, Olivia, for about 17 years and depended very heavily on imports coming from outside. So the average, at the minimum, is 500 trucks. Now, going back to the ceasefire, UNRWA was doing this not alone, the 600, 700 trucks, 800, and I'll explain in a minute. We did it together with the rest of the United Nations family, of course, with WHO, with UNICEF, with WFP, and with other humanitarian agencies. UNRWA played a very big part in that, that's right, but we didn't do it alone. And so on average, what was coming in during the ceasefire was from 400 to 800, and then I ask that we don't fall in the trap of counting trucks and how many trucks, because we've all become sort of truck experts over the past 2 years, and that's not the story. The story is that there's loads of humanitarian needs in the Gaza Strip. To respond to those humanitarian needs, you're going to need the United Nations, including UNRWA. People in Gaza, they've lost everything, they need everything. People have been displaced on average 9 to 10 times a day, including, by the way, our own staff. So there is no question that Gaza needs to be flooded with humanitarian assistance, and that must be done through the United Nations, including UNRWA.
And I see Olivia nodding. Thank you. Christian, sorry. You're on.
Here we go. Yeah, just to do a verbal nodding as well. Let's not forget while we don't want to count the trucks, I fully agree here. The 600 trucks mentioned before many times, they came in peacetime to Gaza. They came into a practically perfectly functioning society apart from the supplies that were needed on a daily basis. Now we have a shattered Gaza, shattered lives, shattered buildings, shattered healthcare. That's why we need to flood the place, as we have all been saying multiple times, with supplies, medical, food, life-saving, fuel, and so on and so forth. So yeah, let's not count the individual trucks. Let's just flood the place.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think this was the last question. I don't see other hands up. So I'd like to thank you all very much. Thanks, Ricardo, Christian, and above all, Juliette, for connecting from Amman to answer the questions of our journalists. Thank you so very much. That brings us to the end of our, for whom? After Gaza, okay. Okay. So thank you very much. Since this was our last subject, I give you the floor, Christiane.
Thank you very much. I was hoping that the High Commissioner of Human Rights has a comment on the Nobel Peace Prize going to the Venezuelan lady. Thank you.
I wonder whether Tamin is connected. Yeah, Tamin, please. Of course, we have, as I'm sure you've seen, the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Maria Corina Machado for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. And of course, we congratulate the winner of this year's Nobel Prize. I know we will have a full reaction a bit later, but Tamin, maybe you want to already say something on it, please.
Thank you, Alessandra, and thank you, Christiane, for the question. We congratulate Maria consistently spoken out in support of these values. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, are there any other questions for Tamin? Yes, Robin.
Hi, Tamin. Would you be able to give us a broader overview of the rights situation in Venezuela as it stands, to explain a bit more the context in which this award comes? Thank you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can, Tamin. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Well, I think you have been following up on the work that our office has done on Venezuela. We have been reporting on the situation of human rights in Venezuela. We have been seeking to engage with all stakeholders, including, of course, the authorities, on different kinds of situations. The Human Rights Council has requested our office to provide regular updates, and our recent report is based on careful documentation following the established methodology, of course. So we reiterate this willingness of our office to engage in good faith with the government of Venezuela and all the stakeholders based on mutual respect. And we remain firmly committed to continue working to defend and protect the human rights of all Venezuelans, whether they are in Venezuela or abroad, and based, of course, on information and with the victims in the center of our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Yeah, I wonder whether the question is about more about what is the situation in Venezuela? What is the problem with human rights in Venezuela? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Of course, it would not be very easy to resume the whole situation today in a few lines or in a short answer, but the bottom line here is that we need more engagement with the authorities. As you know, that the National Assembly of Venezuela voted in favor of declaring the High Commissioner persona non grata, and this is something that we have regretted. There are many human rights issues that need to be addressed in Venezuela. We can provide more details if you have any precise questions in this regard, but the bottom line is that our office needs to work and to engage with the authorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me see if there's any question for you on the line. Yes, Jamie.
Hi, Tamim. Thank you so much for coming. Just wanted to find out if your office has been in contact with Ms. Machado recently. Have you had any, connection with her out of human rights concerns? And if so, when was that and where? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I will need to get back to you on that specific point. Of course, our office is in contact with many stakeholders in Venezuela, many Venezuelan stakeholders in the country and abroad. But I will need to get back to you on this specific question about contact with Ms. Machado.
And don't see any other hand up for you, Tamim. Thank you very much. Is that a hand, Robin? No. Okay. Okay, good. So we come to the end of, almost to the end of our briefing. We have spoken at length about the World Mental Health Day, which is today. We've also sent you the message of the Secretary General for the day, International Day of the Girl Child. This is tomorrow, 11th of October. And we also sent you the message for the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, which is on the 13th of October. And as you know, our colleague of the Disaster Risk Reduction Agency here in Geneva are available for questions. Just wanted to remind you the press conference of Mrs. Greenspan. That's going to be at the Secretary General of UNCTAD. That's going to be on Monday, 13 October at 2:30 p.m. in this room. She will be here to brief you on UNCTAD 16, which is coming along, as you know, starting the week after, on the 20th of October for 4 days here at the Palais des Nations. And on Thursday, 16th of October at 10 a.m., we will have a press conference by WMO on the WMO Greenhouse Gas Bulletin with Cove Barrett, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the organization, and Oksana Tarasova, WMO Senior Scientific Officer. Speaking about the World Mental Health Day, I just wanted to invite you to a film screening and a panel discussion, which is going to happen this afternoon at 4:30 in room 8 of the Palais des Nations. It's organized by the UNOG Working Group Against Racism, and we will be screening the award-winning documentary Color, directed by Dr. Hannah Strohmeyer. To uncover how colonial legacies and institutional racism impact mental health in humanitarian workplaces. This 64-minute film includes extensive research as well as testimonies of the working staff in Nairobi and call for more inclusive and supportive organizational structure. There will also be a panel discussion, including with messages from Dr. Strohmeyer after the film screening. Just wanted to remind you that I'm sure you know that the treaty bodies sessions have been cancelled for their third annual session. So we wanted to still tell you about what's coming up on that side. In accordance with Human Rights Council Resolution 5222 adopted on April 2023, the United Nations Forum on Human Rights, Democracy and the Rule of Law will hold its 5th session next Monday and Tuesday, 13 and 14 of October at Tempus here at the Palais. The theme will be Democracy and Climate Change, focusing on solutions. At the opening of this session at 10 a.m. on Monday, the forum should hear opening statement from a series of very distinguished speakers. It's a very long list. I won't read them all, but please have a look on their website. There will be 6 successive panels, 3 per day, devoted to climate change in a rule of law-less context, participation, accountability, and fundamental freedoms on climate justice, the just world. Another one on climate governance. Then they will have legal clarity, democratic defense and creativity, harmony with nature, interconnected solution for interconnected problems. So we are going to ask you to have a look at their website for more details on the panels and on the speakers. And I think I've told you everything I had on my list. So if there are no other question, I thank you all very much and wish you a very, very good weekend. And I'll see you on Tuesday. Thank you.